to my channel friends, coming at you all today quickly with a recommendation on the top 5 true crime books that I've read. And I'm going to start it out with The Stranger Beside Me by Ann Rule. Imagine that you're a part-time true crime writer and you get a job to write a book about some unsolved murders that are happening in the area. But unbeknownst to you, your friend Ted Bundy is the serial killer. Not only was Ann Rule a co-worker and friend of Ted Bundy's, she stayed in touch with him after his arrest, writing him letters and sending him petty cash. She was in a great position to write a book about his life. No amount of research can make up for the relationship she had with Bundy, and she writes a phenomenal book on him. Number 2 is Deviant by Harold Schechter. Deviant is a biography on the grave robber and murderer Ed Gein. Ed Gein was a very strange and unusual man who liked to break into the local cemeteries at night, dig up women who had recently been buried, and carefully cut the flesh from their bodies. His thing was he liked to wear the flesh of dead women, and he would make bodysuits and gloves and leggings for himself. Ed Gein was a very disturbed man. Harold Schechter does a great job talking about the childhood of Ed Gein and the strange relationship he had with his mother and the women he killed in his town, and we know he killed his brother, and there were bodies found in his yard after his arrest that couldn't be accounted for by grave robbing alone. Harold Schechter does a great job writing on Ed Gein and Deviant, and I highly recommend it. My third recommendation here, if there's anyone else that I think that was just surely as insane as Ed Gein, it would be Albert Fish. Albert Fish, in his own words by John Borowski, is a look at a man who killed and ate children his entire life. Albert Fish was a very bizarre man who liked to molest and kill and eat children. He would cut their bodies up and put the meat in stew, and he had rituals that I won't mention here. He had self-mutilation rituals that I won't talk about here. He just did a lot of really strange and unusual stuff, similar to Ed Gein in a way. But his gimmick as an old man was that he was a harmless, grandfatherly, feeble type, and he would befriend people and he would steal their children. This is a very haunting case, this case on Albert Fish. John Borowski not only does a great job commenting on Fish's life in this book, but he does a great job compiling many of the writings of Fish himself, and it makes for a fantastic and entertaining read. The fourth book that I'm going to mention here is titled Are You There Alone by Susan O'Malley. This book is about the murderer Andrea Yates. Andrea Yates was a very mentally ill woman. She had a lot of religious delusions, and she was closely monitored by her family, but one morning she was not closely monitored and she drowned all 5 of her children in a bathtub. This is a very troubling case. In this book, Susan O'Malley does a great job talking about the bizarre childhood of Yates and the strange home life she had, living in a trailer with her husband and the children. It's all so strange and unusual, and the trial and the aftermath. It's a really entertaining read, and I highly recommend it. Number 5, I made it. My final recommendation here is Columbine by Dave Cullen. Columbine refers to a school shooting that happened in Colorado by Eric Harris and Dylan Klebold. These 2 kids were very interesting case to read about. Dave Cullen does a great job in this book talking about the psychology of the kids. They tried to blow their school up with homemade bombs, and the bombs didn't go off, but they shot and killed a lot of people at that school. It was a real big thing in the media. Dave Cullen spent 10 years investigating this horrific crime, and he does a great job writing about the whole thing. He did many, many interviews, and he had the inside look at this terrible tragedy. Columbine is probably the most famous school shooting in history, and it's a really interesting and troubling case to read about, but an entertaining and fun read nonetheless, and I highly recommend Dave Cullen's Columbine. That's it, folks. I made it through it. I want to ask you all to subscribe to me if you haven't already, and stay tuned. Thanks, everyone.